I've lived on this farm for more than 15 years. Out here in the quiet fields far away from the noise of the town, I thought I had seen everything. Storms tearing through the barns, coyotes prowling near the chicken coop, even the occasional trespasser looking for a shortcut across the land. But nothing could have prepared me for what I stumbled upon that night. It was late summer. The heat during the day had been suffocating, and even after sunset, the air still clung to my skin, sticky and heavy. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to walk down to the barn and check on the animals. Sometimes the cows get restless in the heat, and I figured I might as well make myself useful. As I walked across the yard, I noticed something strange. A faint glow flickered inside the hayloft window. At first, I thought it might just be the moonlight catching the glass, but then I heard it. Voices, soft, low, urgent. I froze in my tracks. Nobody was supposed to be in there. My first thought was thieves. People sometimes try to steal tools or feed, though never in the middle of the night. But as I crept closer, the voices grew clearer, and I realized it wasn't the harsh tone of burglars whispering about what to grab. It was different. The voices were tender, almost secretive, like two people sharing something they didn't want the world to know. I climbed the side ladder quietly, my heart pounding. The barn smelled of hay, dust, and the faint sweetness of stored grain. As I reached the top, I hesitated. A part of me wanted to turn back, to pretend I hadn't heard anything. But curiosity, mixed with a strange unease, pulled me forward. Through the gap between two hay bales, I finally saw them. A man and a woman, young, maybe in their 20s, lying close together on the hay. They weren't fighting or stealing. They were with each other, whispering, holding on to each other as if the rest of the world didn't exist. I stepped back, almost stumbling over a loose plank. My chest tightened with anger and confusion. Who were they? How did they get here? Why on earth were they on my farm of all places? For a long moment, I just stood there, torn between storming in and demanding answers, or sneaking away and pretending none of it was real. The night was so still, the cicadas humming outside, the soft murmur of their voices inside, and me, caught in the middle of something that didn't belong to me, yet was happening on my own land. And that was only the beginning. I couldn't sleep that night. Even after I left the barn and walked back across the yard, the image of those strangers lying in the hay haunted me. Every creak of the wooden boards beneath my boots seemed too loud. Every shadow seemed to move. It felt wrong, like a piece of my own world had been invaded without permission. I sat on the porch for a long time, staring out at the fields. The cicadas buzzed, the stars hung low and heavy, and still my mind circled back to the same questions. Who were they? Why here? My land wasn't a place you just stumbled upon by accident. We were miles from the main road. They had chosen this barn, chosen my farm. For what reason? By dawn, I'd made my mind. I wasn't going to call the sheriff. Not yet. Out here, we solve things face to face before dragging the law into it. But I also wasn't about to let two strangers turn my property into their secret hideout. So after feeding the animals and sipping down a mug of bitter coffee, I headed back toward the barn. The morning sun spilled over the fields, painting everything gold. But inside me, tension twisted tighter with each step. When I reached the barn door, I paused. It was quiet. Too quiet. I pushed the door open slowly, the hinges groaning in protest. The scent of hay rushed out to greet me. And then I heard it again, whispering. Not frantic, not frightened, just hushed. I climbed the ladder deliberately this time, making no effort to hide my approach. If they were still up there, I wanted them to know I was coming. Sure enough, as soon as my head cleared the edge of the loft, I saw them, the same couple. The young man sat up quickly, eyes wide, while the woman clutched at his arm. They looked terrified, not violent, not threatening, just scared. "What the hell are you doing in my barn?" I demanded, my voice echoing through the rafters. The man opened his mouth and closed it again. His jaw tightened, as if he was searching for words that refused to come. Finally, he said, "We didn't mean to cause trouble. We needed a place." "A place?" I repeated, stepping fully onto the loft. "You break into a man's barn in the middle of the night, and all you can tell me is you needed a place? That doesn't cut it." The woman's eyes filled with tears. She whispered something I couldn't quite hear, her voice trembling. The man rubbed her back, then turned to me again. "We'll leave," he said firmly. "Right now. We won't come back." I crossed my arms. My instinct screamed to throw them out, slam the door behind them, and be done with it. But there was something in the way he said it, something heavy, like they were carrying more than just the shame of being caught. "Who are you?" I asked quietly. Silence. The man's gaze darted to the floor and back to me. "It doesn't matter. You'll never see us again." And maybe that should have been enough. Maybe I should have let them walk away. But as the woman stood, I noticed the way she moved, carefully, painfully, as if every step hurt. Her sleeve slipped just enough to reveal a dark bruise on her arm. My anger drained away, replaced by something colder, concern. "What happened to her?" I asked. The man stiffened. "Nothing, she's fine." The woman shook her head almost imperceptibly, her eyes begging me not to press. That was when I realized this wasn't just some reckless couple sneaking around for fun. They were running from something, or someone. And whatever it was, it had driven them straight into my barn, desperate for shelter. I let out a slow breath. "You'd better start talking," I said, "because if you don't, I will call the sheriff. And something tells me you don't want that." The man's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving him. He glanced at the woman, then back at me. "Please," he said, his voice breaking just slightly. "Just give us one more night. Just tonight. Tomorrow we'll be gone." I stared at them, torn between suspicion and pity. They were strangers, intruders, but they were also frightened, wounded, and clearly hiding something dark. And against all better judgment, I heard myself say, "One night, no more." The relief on their faces was almost painful to watch. The woman whispered a thank you, and the man bowed his head as if a weight had lifted, if only for a moment. But as I climbed back down the ladder, one thought gnawed at me. Whatever they were running from, it was only a matter of time before it came looking. And when it did, it wouldn't just be their problem. It would be mine, too. I barely slept the next night. Even though I had given them permission to stay, every creak of the house set my nerves on edge. I kept imagining footsteps in the yard, headlights sweeping across the fields, voices calling out in the darkness. Whoever they were running from, I was certain it would catch up to them, and when it did, I'd be right in the middle. At dawn, I went back to the barn. The morning was misty, the air cool and damp, carrying the scent of dew on grass. When I opened the barn door, I found them sitting together on the hay, fully awake, their faces pale and tense. It looked like neither of them had slept either. The man stood as soon as he saw me. "We'll go today," he said. "We promised. We don't want more trouble for you." I studied them. Their clothes were worn, their eyes hollow, as if they'd been carrying burdens too heavy for their years. "Before you leave," I said carefully, "I need the truth. No more secrets. Who are you running from?" For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he exchanged a glance with the woman and finally spoke. "Her father," he said simply. The woman lowered her head, shame flooding her expression. I waited, but the silence stretched heavy, so I pressed. "Why would he chase you all the way here?" The man's jaw tightened. "Because he doesn't believe she has the right to choose. To him, I'm nothing, worse than nothing, and he'll do whatever it takes to keep her under his control." The woman finally raised her eyes to me. They glistened with unshed tears. "We didn't want to involve anyone. We just needed somewhere to hide until we figured out where to go next." Her words struck me harder than I expected. This wasn't just about two reckless kids sneaking around. This was about freedom, about someone desperate enough to run, even if it meant hiding in a stranger's barn. I sighed, rubbing a hand over my face. "If he's looking for you, he'll find you eventually. People like that don't give up easy." The man nodded grimly. "I know. That's why we have to keep moving." We stood in silence for a long time, the only sound the restless shuffling of the cows below. Finally, I said, "You can leave after breakfast. I won't stop you. But you should know, if anyone comes asking, I won't lie." They both nodded, gratitude and fear mingling in their eyes. I thought that would be the end of it, but fate rarely listens to plans. That afternoon, as I was mending a fence near the road, I saw dust rising in the distance. A truck was coming, fast. My stomach dropped. I knew before I even saw the man behind the wheel who it must be. The vehicle screeched to a stop by the gate, and out stepped a broad-shouldered man with a face carved from stone. His eyes swept the farm like a predator scanning for prey. He slammed the gate shut behind him and stalked toward me. "You seen them?" he voiced rough, demanding. I didn't answer immediately. "Who are you talking about?" "My daughter," he snapped, "and the bastard who took her." There it was, the truth, standing in front of me in boots coated with dust and fury. "I don't want trouble here," I said evenly. "If you're looking for someone, maybe you should try the town." His eyes narrowed, sharp and dangerous. "Don't play dumb with me. I know they're here." Before I could reply, a sound from the barn betrayed us. A faint creak of wood, just enough to draw his attention. His head snapped toward that, and he began striding in that direction. I felt my pulse hammer. Part of me wanted to step aside, let him drag them out, and wash my hands of the whole mess. But another part, the part that remembered the bruise on her arm, the desperation in her voice, refused to move. I planted myself in his path. "You'll go no further," I said, my voice low but steady. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. Then his face twisted into a snarl. "You think you can stop me on my own land?" he spat. "This is my land, and nobody walks into my barn without my say-so." The tension stretched tight as wire. His fists clenched, his jaw worked, and for a moment I thought he'd swing at me. But then the barn door creaked open, and the young couple stepped out, holding hands, trembling but defiant. The woman's voice shook as she spoke. "I'm not your property anymore, Father." The words hit harder than any blow. Her father's face darkened with rage, his chest heaving, but she didn't flinch. For the first time, she stood tall, her eyes blazing with a strength I hadn't seen before. The man beside her squared his shoulders, ready to protect her, even if it meant taking a beating. I stayed where I was, silent but firm, making it clear I wouldn't let violence unfold on my farm. Finally, after what felt like forever, the father spat on the ground. "You'll regret this," he growled. Then he turned and stormed back to his truck and roared off down the road, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Silence settled over the farm again, broken only by the distant call of a crow. The young woman's knees buckled, and she nearly collapsed, but the man caught her. She buried her face in his chest, sobbing with both relief and terror. I let out a long breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "You two need to leave," I said quietly. "Now, before he comes back." They nodded, tears glistening in their eyes. The woman whispered, "Thank you." And though her voice was soft, it carried more weight than any words I ever heard. I watched them walk down the dirt road, their figures shrinking against the horizon. They had no map, no certainty, only each other. But somehow, I believed they'd make it. As for me, I stood alone by the fence, the dust slowly settling. My farm was quiet again, but I knew it would never feel quite the same. Because for one brief moment, two strangers walked into my world and left behind a story I'd never forget. And sometimes, that's all life is. Unexpected encounters, choices that weigh heavier than we realize, and the silence afterward, where we're left wondering if we did the right thing.
Thanks for watching. Don't miss the next story.